highly sensitive friends since 2018. We've been sharing our journeys together.
And now we're bringing you along for the ride,
Welcome to Highly Sensitive Friends Talking,
where we chat about all things HSP, from daily life scenarios
to exploring spirituality, personal growth.
and all the aha moments in between.
So grab a cozy drink and settle in.
Because this is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired.
Let's spend some time together.
Let's start today's podcast with some sad news.
What?
Today I looked in the mirror and I saw my first really white hair. Like white.
Oh my gosh.
Dumbledore white, you know?
Sometimes people get those just like I wouldn't necessarily read too far into that.
It was like here, and you know, I just grabbed, what is it called in English? It's tweezer, right?
Yeah.
It's a tweezer. So I grabbed my tweezer because I was like, okay, practice what you preach, embrace yourself. But no, I'm not ready. You know, like, I'm not
Oh my
ready to
gosh. Wait,
embrace
okay.
myself.
I totally respect why that's stressful and frustrating, but I just want to share that like
Yes.
okay, so the one thing I'll share is that I know some people that have gotten random white or gray hairs, and it's like a standalone thing. It's not like their hair is turning gray. It's just a random hiccup.
No,
But then
no.
the other thing I was going to say is that so one of my best friends has a gray streak in his hair, and it's the coolest thing. And then
Yes.
actually the woman that he's marrying actually next month has gray strips and stripes too, and they look so cute together because it's
Yes.
I don't really think it's so cool. It to me it doesn't look like a
It's-
sign of age. It just looks like a cool flare. I
Okay.
love it. I think it's awesome.
It kind of calms me down, but you know, at the same time, as I pulled out this tiny white hair, which really was like a granny hair, sorry, grandmas who are listening, but like, it was like really like this tiny hair. And I just looked at it and I suddenly, it was almost like I could hear that tiny clock ticking in the back of my mind, like tick,
Yeah.
tick, tock, you're getting old, you don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
You still need to get your career where you want to go. You know? Like,
Yeah.
it was just like, and I don't know. I was like, okay, should I talk about this? Because this is something that's really like vulnerable to talk about. But at the same time, I think a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to it, especially when you're like a woman at the beginning of your 30s and
Yeah.
you don't have children yet, but you want them. And
Which I feel like is really a lot more common these days, right?
yes, because our society on one hand tells us to all become these successful women with good careers and being self-sufficient, and you know, that's the one story we hear. But at the same time, we're being told we should not be too old to become mothers. You will be tired. You know, like, it's so contradicting.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you bring this up, and this happens so much with us. So for those of you listening, you'll start to notice a theme. Anytime you're going through something, I'm going through something, and vice versa. It always somehow ends up being the same thing. Because I've had a lot of the same feelings of seeing a lot of my friends getting married, and or even a lot of them having kids, and or just doing better financially. There's so many different things where I feel like, especially because I just literally self-destructed my life a couple of years ago, and I'm starting over. That it kind of feels a little bit like, well, crap, now I'm like 10 years behind starting over again. And so I've had
Yeah.
similar feelings, but actually something that I've been realizing, and this is, you're gonna laugh at me. So everyone's heard of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, right? You know that
Yes.
show. So they have a new one on now that they just last year had for the first time a Golden Bachelor, which is 60 plus age.
Oh yes.
And then
Okay.
this year now they're doing Golden Bachelorette. So my mom and I, who's 62, I think.
Yes.
She's in her early 60s, but we've been watching it together, and it's the most beautiful. So all the young versions of the 20s, whatever, of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette have always been so dramatic and so whatever. People just want to be on TV. But this one, everyone's been through something really hard, like either their spouse passed away or they got divorced or something. And so these people are
Yes.
coming in to try to find love in the last, quarter of their life, basically. And everyone's they've been through so much, so it's very vulnerable, but also everyone's coming in it with such a pure-hearted intention of, I really just want to find love and I want to do what I need to do that. So they're willing to be vulnerable and all of this stuff. And it's actually been really beautiful to watch, and I've started to it's actually helped me in so many ways, but the reason I'm bringing it up now is because
Yes.
it's kind of helped me start to think of, like, I almost am enjoying being a late bloomer because I feel
Yes.
like I'm starting to realize that getting into a relationship now, I feel like would be such a different experience than in my 20s because I feel like
I
now it
agree.
would be so intentional. We know what we want, we know who we are, we know what questions to ask, and just, I don't know, I'm starting to feel like it's almost a benefit in some ways to be older starting some of these things because it just feels like there's so much more of a conscious intention behind it.
I
And
agree.
like, I don't know, I think that yes, there's some benefit to having kids young because you have more energy.
Yes, I
But I
agree.
also think that there's also benefit to having kids when you're older and you have done more of your personal healing and have more
True.
financial resources or have a better support network around you or whatever it is. So I
Yeah.
think that I've been trying to see the positives of being a quote unquote late bloomer rather than beating myself up for not having accomplished all of these things. Because I've even had
Yes.
someone recently tell me because I was feeling like really crappy about not, like you said, being farther in your goals and
Yes.
or, having put 10 years in a company and having such a big salary now or whatever. And
Yeah.
she was saying that she felt, even though she might be putting in all this time at this company and has gotten a promotion and has, a good salary or whatever, that her job, when she hears me talk about what I'm doing, she's like, what you're doing seems so much more fulfilling to you. Like you have a purpose versus
Yes, true.
just working at a corporate thing trying to
I
gain
agree.
security, which is also really valuable, which is another thing I was going to say when you mentioned this earlier, is that it's harder nowadays. It's the ceiling to
Yes.
reach to be able to afford to have a child. It's like
Yes,
so
like
much
I don't know,
harder.
have you seen the Barbie movie?
Yes.
Yes, final monologue, where she just talked about how impossible it is to be a woman nowadays and what is expected from us. It just hit
Yeah.
home, and I know it did for a lot of women out there, just
Yeah.
feeling the confirmation for what we are feeling inside. But we tend to forget that from time to time. It's good to see it in our social
Yeah.
media accounts, in our algorithms, and get the confirmation. But when you pull out that white hair, that's the moment where you just forget everything you've learned and you're just looking
Right.
at it and
Right.
you're just really confronted with your own mortality, and I really love how you described it, saying that we're just late bloomers.
Yeah.
Even looking at your background on your it's just we're just late bloomers.
That's cute. I did that on purpose, obviously.
Yes, yes, it was all props. It was all planned. No, but I think, yeah, there's something beautiful about just looking at it positively. And Rini and I, my husband and I, we have been also very conscious about our timeline, and
Yeah.
yeah, just where we want to be and what state we want to be before we have children. And yeah, yes, I told in the last episode, we're still in the middle of renovating our home and we're still in the middle of growing our business. So it's just a few building blocks left before we are there. But at the same time, yeah, you're confronted with your biological clock.
Biology. Yeah.
Biology. So as a woman, you are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have a unique kind of because for me, I've always felt like there's going to be a very small window of time where I would feel like it would be optimal for me physically to have a baby because
Yeah.
and I'm sure I'll talk about this more as we do more podcast episodes, but I dealt with and are still dealing with a lot of chronic health issues. But I also know that there's a biological clock ticking, like you're mentioning. So for me, I've always felt like, okay, well, I need to get my health to a place where I even feel like I'd be physically able to have a child. But I have to do that fast enough before it gets to the threshold of it's now too late. So, but it's interesting because, and I don't know if this will be helpful to you, but I'll just share it because I feel like it's relevant, is that I was at a place, especially coming out of my recent relationship, where I feel like, oh my God, I'm 10 years behind now. I spent 10 years with someone that I thought I was going to marry and have kids with, and that's not what happened. So
Yes.
if I still want those things, now I'm freaking out that, oh my God, I'm 33 and I somehow have to find the person and do all these things and somehow whatever before 5 years
Yeah,
from now or whatever. It's terrifying when you say it like
exactly.
that. But I actually came to a really all the crap I've been through in the past year or 2 years is almost given me a totally different perspective in a way that I was not expecting. Because going through a lot of hard stuff is sucks and can make you really
Yes.
cynical,
It's like
but it
hard.
also really helps me strip down what really matters to me, what's really important for me. If I can
Yeah.
only have one thing, if it just feels like everything's impossible, what really matters to me? And I got to a place where I realized, at least for me personally, I would much rather have the most beautiful relationship in the world that I could possibly find and create with someone and not have children than
Yes.
necessarily just marry someone or find someone to speed things along so that I could have children, even if I had
Agree.
really great relationships with those children. I mean, obviously, I've never had a relationship with a human child, like my own
No.
human child, so I can't say how I would feel. But I got to like a really helpful, healthy place where I realized if that goal is more important to me than necessarily having children, which obviously is just for me personally, not everyone will feel this way.
Yes.
But it helped me kind of let go of the timeline because now I feel like I would rather take my time to make sure that I'm doing each step of the way properly. And if that means I don't ever get to the last step, I would rather have done the first few steps really well.
I agree.
Right?
That
Because
sounds
like
beautiful. Yeah.
you don't want to rush the business, rush the marriage, especially because at the end of the day, I mean, I still feel like if I do end up finding a person who really wants kids and all the resources are there and my health is there and all of the things are checked off the list or whatever, I would love to
Yes.
still have a family. I don't know. I think it's important to, I think that I could find the things that I would imagine would be fulfilling about having a child. I think I could translate into something else if I had to and still be happy.
Yes, I know what you mean. A child is a puzzle piece in your entire puzzle, but it's
Right.
not the puzzle for you.
Right. I know two people specifically, my mom and actually my ex's sister have said I knew from a very early age that I wanted a child and it didn't even matter if there was
Yes.
a guy in the picture. And I was, wow, that's a strong
Yes.
conviction.
Yes.
Like there
Yes.
are people out there like that. And honestly, if that's you, I'm not
That's
gonna tell you
that's
what to
the
do, but I would
yes.
advocate for go adopt. Like do whatever you need to do. If that's your number one thing, like my number one thing is just find the most beautiful relationship ever. Doesn't matter if there's no kids involved. If your number one thing is I just have such a strong urge to mother something, then I think that then I think that you should do that. You know,
Yes.
there are many different, very beautiful ways to have
Yes.
a
Yes.
mother-child relationship, you know?
Yes, yes, I think so too. Also, when Rini and I talk to other people about our wish to have a child, we also always say, okay, we really hope that we will succeed to have a child within our timeline. But if it will not work, of course, we will stay together. We love each other and we have a lot of other things in our lives and we have each other. Like there's all
Yeah.
the things that we have together that make us happy. Our happiness does not depend on having a child. Having a child would only add to it.
Right. Well, and that's how it should
And
be, because it shouldn't be,
yes.
no child should be brought into the world as a solution for something.
No,
Right.
no, never. No,
Right.
no,
Not saying that
never.
you would do that, but I know that some
No,
people are like, oh, I feel unfulfilled, so let's just have a child thinking that that's going to help.
exactly.
I wouldn't want to be that child, you know?
No, me neither. That's a lot of pressure to put on a child.
Yeah.
So it's really important to think it through. And yeah, in the end, I'm still 32, but the white hair at the beginning of the day was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is
I mean, I've definitely had similar feelings where I look at my face in the mirror and I'm like,
yes,
like I just look,
yes,
but I've also looked at photos of myself from 5, 10 years ago where I remember having similar thoughts. Not that necessarily that I was getting older, but not really loving the way I looked or something. And now I look much older now than I did then. So I'm kind of like, you know what?
yes.
10 years from now, I'm going to be wishing I had appreciated how I look right now.
I agree. I agree. I do the same looking at my 19, 20-year-old me. I'm like, oh, wow, yes. Like,
Yeah.
why was I so insecure back then?
Right.
Yes.
Right. And you know, this is gonna sound really, like, I'm probably gonna lose some people by saying this, but like
Say
I'm also had just saying. I've had some interesting thoughts brewing in my head lately. And it's actually coming out of me feeling more committed to pursuing what I feel my purpose is. When I get ideas for YouTube videos and stuff, it feels very channeled. Like you and I have talked about this before, where I feel like sometimes
Yes.
I just get ideas and they just come pouring out of me. And I have to always end up coming to me in the shower. So I'm rushing the shower so I can finish to go get my notes on my phone, write down all my ideas. Obviously you and I know this, but our listeners will learn that we both have very strong connections with the universe, and that's just who we are.
Yes.
But so I feel very much like whatever is coming to me is coming through me. I feel like I am serving a purpose. I feel very strongly, and like also probably why I felt so drawn that I had to connect with you is I feel like we have a Venn diagram of our purposes overlap a little bit.
I agree.
I feel so strongly that I'm here to, in whatever way, shape, or form, help sensitive people awaken and realize their potential and
Exactly.
have the tools and skills to do so. Because it does feel like there's very things happening in the world and the universe that are calling
Yes,
sensitive people forward to kind of pursue,
exactly.
right, what
And
matters to them.
also stand in their strength, I think, to
Yeah,
really make them feel strong from within and really
right.
stand in their biggest, like, so,
Yeah,
yes.
right, their highest self, right. So anyway, I'm getting this is very probably all like, how the heck why is she talking about this right now? So I came to this idea where I was like, okay, so if I feel so strongly that I have this purpose, I think that I am the way that I am, whether the way I look, the things I'm interested in, the talents I have, the skills I have, the things that I'm not interested in, all of these things feel like perfectly designed for whatever purpose I'm here to fill. So if I'm
Mhm.
just this vessel that's programmed to love certain things so that I pursue them so that I fulfill a larger purpose. And
Yes.
not that my personal happiness doesn't also matter and I'm not just here to like be a
No.
minion, right?
No, no.
But I feel like I got to this place where I was like, what business do I have even judging the way that I look or the things that I'm not good at or
Yeah,
like most of the things we shame ourselves for. If I just see myself as I'm here filling a purpose and I am the way that I am for a reason, it's almost like who cares anymore? Because that's something
exactly.
I'm really self-conscious about, where I'm happy to mention because I'm sure other people are going to mention is that my nose is not straight.
Oh, I didn't know.
So, and this is also a funny story. I don't want to go on a too long of a tangent, but if you're interested, we can talk about it. But
Yes.
I almost broke my nose when I was 4 or 5.
Oh
And the
gosh.
reason I knew that at some point I would talk about it on our channel or another channel is because it's a people pleasing story. So
Oh,
like,
yes, please do.
so there was a girl in kindergarten who was the smartest, coolest girl in the school, and she like
Who is
asked,
she?
eh. But so she asked me to play with her during recess. So I was stoked. I was like, "Oh my God, she's the smartest girl in class." I'm so excited. So we're climbing up this playground and there's this wooden playground that has a ladder that you go up to get to the top level, but that's the only way to get up to the top level. But I was trying to play with her. So she was climbing up the ladder, the part that you're supposed to climb. And I was climbing up the side of the playground trying to
You're
stay in
cool.
the same spot. Whatever stupid idea I had at 4 or 5 years old, or however old you are when you're in kindergarten, but I'm young for my age, so I don't know, whatever. But anyway, I ended up not looking at what I was doing and looking at her and climbing up a spot that I wasn't supposed to be climbing on. And I smashed my face into this
Oh,
wooden bar
oh
and I
gosh.
hurt myself. So what do? I let go to put my hands on my face. So then I ended up
Obviously. So you
falling.
fell.
So I
Oh.
fell from the second tier up on this playground face first. So not only did I smash my nose into this bar, but I also landed on my face.
Oh my
I,
gosh.
I went over to the teacher and my nose was just gushing. But anyway, going on a crazy tangent, like went to the doctor. The doctor told my mom that I would probably want to get a nose job someday because it would be crooked.
Oh.
And so it is.
But you don't need a nose job. You have a beautiful nose.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, see, but that's what I'm saying is that's something I'm really self-conscious about. But I've gotten to a place where I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm meant to have a crooked nose.
Yes,
I don't know,
exactly.
like it's part of who I am. And what a trivial thing. If what brings me fulfillment is doing these certain things that I love and I'm supposed to be here to inspire other HSPs or whatever it is,
Exactly.
I don't know, it kind of has helped me let go a little bit of the physical insecurities.
I
Like
know
even
what
like
you
I have
mean.
so many insecurities about my body and my size and being like this skinny girl and not like the
Yes.
curvy girl and all this crap.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
so many things I could pick apart, but I feel like this realization lately has helped me kind of be like, you know what? It's just a waste of time. Like why
Yeah.
even waste my energy trying to fix something about myself that can't be
Yes.
changed? And this is also I'll go on my soapbox or whatever it's called talking about HSPs. So many HSPs I feel like out there are trying to figure out the strategy to get rid of or minimize their sensitivity, but it's in our DNA. Like, it's kind of a
Exactly.
waste of energy, in my opinion,
Exactly.
try to
Yeah.
rid yourself of this thing that you can't. Just find
No.
a way to flip the script and figure out the positives, like bringing this back to the beginning of the conversation. There's benefits and disadvantages, right, to having kids young or older,
Yes,
whatever.
exactly.
So like
Yeah.
whichever camp you're in, just find the good thing about having done it that way, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really good to flip the script. And I think
Yeah.
also that's a really beautiful note to end our podcast
Yeah.
on. And
Sorry, I
yeah.
feel like I hijacked this whole
No,
episode.
no, no, I think it's so good to
I
do
was
it.
so determined to make you feel better about your gray hair.
I do feel better. So
Oh, good.
I definitely, and today I also saw this couple walking with their little child, and they looked older than me and they looked happy. So that was for me also kind of the confirmation that I needed from the universe to accept that I have my own timeline,
Yeah.
and I can follow my own flow and shouldn't put too much pressure on myself rushing it because society, but also my social surroundings tell me to.
Right.
So
I mean, think of
yeah,
how much better you'll feel after having accomplished these goals and knowing that you set things up the way you wanted to
exactly.
versus feeling
Yeah,
that pressure to rush into it and then not feeling ready or not feeling like you can be the mom that you want to be because of X, Y, Z,
exactly.
you know?
Exactly. I always have had this dream of being a mom and having my business in a place where my business really is also more passive, in a sense
Yeah.
that I have automated some processes, that I really am able to also be a bit more present offline as a mom, and not having
Yeah.
to hire a sitter and that kind of stuff. That's just really important to me, to really be able to be there, but at the same time also be able to still have a good income. So that's what I'm working on building now. It takes a few gray hairs probably to get there. That's okay.
But they're just accents to your beautiful beauty, you know?
Exactly. They're just like accentuating the process. I can imagine that a lot of our listeners are relating to this, that they also might hear the clock ticking from time to time, especially in your 30s. So we would love to hear your experiences with being in your 30s, with the biological clock, with the decision to become a parent or not, and when to do that. And
Yeah.
yeah, just share it with us. We'd love to hear more about it.
Especially if you are one of those people, I think that maybe chose to do things later in life. There was a couple where I used to live who had a baby. Somehow they did some sort of sciencey thing and had a baby at 50 plus. And they're like, there's
Oh,
so many,
wow.
I talk to them all the time because I'm like, there's got to be benefits. They're both
Yes.
more financially stable. There's all these different things. So yeah, if you're one of those people that maybe chose later in life, throw
Yes.
some
Please.
encouragement in the comments, you know?
Yes.
And
Let's encourage each other.
yeah,
So thank you so much for listening, and we'll chat to you again soon.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Would you like us to talk about a specific topic in our podcast? Make sure to comment and we'll keep it in mind for the future.
And if you enjoy what we're doing here, we'd love for you to like and share this episode so that our podcast reaches other HSPs who can enjoy it as well.
While you're already here, don't forget to check out our additional resources for HSPs and empaths.
And Catherine has her own blog site and has created an online membership for HSPs and empaths with featured experts on relevant personal growth topics every month.
And Tiara has her own YouTube channel and has also built a step-by-step online program for HSPs on the journey to thriving in their health, relationships, and career.
All of our links are in the description. See you on the next episode.